long time.
For a long time now.
No,
since
I'll try to give a short bit of a history because believe it or not, it's been around in Australia for almost 60 years. If you start with the first book, Dianetics.
Yep.
And that's really where it all starts. So, in 1950, he wrote the book Dianetics, and that was hit the bestseller list in the U.S. Really, it was about the mind, and it was called Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health. Author was, of course, L. Ron Hubbard, who later founded Scientology.
Right.
And so Dianetics means, in Greek, through mind. So this itself wasn't anything about religion. It was just like, okay, you don't have to go for a 4-year degree on in psychology or psychiatry, which would take 12 years, to understand what the mind is all about. You know, you yourself, just the guy in the street, can understand exactly how the mind works and what you run into and what you can do about it.
Yeah.
And so that was the premise, that it was all taken upon it.
Yeah.
Now, it's very funny because, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of self-help books being published all the time.
Yep.
You know, there was this, like, there are groups that just spring up, like, it's like mushrooms, just everywhere. There's all these new groups.
It's been big since the 80s.
And
the spiritual thing.
Not just us. I'm just talking about self-help groups generally, right?
Yeah.
Before 1950, L. Ron Hubbard was this guy. He was, a respected author. He did. It was during the golden age of science fiction. He was very prevalent during that time. But he did like 21 different genres he wrote in. He wrote in under all these different pen names, like 15 different pen names. He was a very popular author. He was respected in many fields, and yet, when he published that book, even though thousands of other books are published on self-help and all this kind of stuff, somehow, he became overnight. He became this demon. I think
demonized.
The truth is that he did challenge the established thought.
The status quo?
Yeah, absolutely. He challenged that. I mean, the status quo at the time in psychiatry and psychology said, for example, that IQ couldn't change.
Yeah.
And he challenged that straight away by saying, if you use this Dianetics technique, not only do all those guys that are trained and have these cushy jobs and have a lot of money coming in because of their MD status, not only can their job be done better by a guy in the street who just reads a book, but it can be done, for basically for no cost. It can be done, with this technique, and you can raise people's IQ.
Right.
Yeah. That was an enormous challenge, especially when the whole last hour of Workers Radio was talking about, New World Order and so forth. I think there is a true fact about when you talk about such things, is that some people do benefit for people to be unaware.
Well, that's what they say. Yeah, if you're not unaware, well, that's your fault, and we'll just keep going on.
That's right, and it does. Like, for laws to be slipped through in Congress or in Parliament, all of these things that affect us, and then we look back on it and wish it didn't happen. Well, this has to do with our being unaware and not being alert and vigilant to things going on.
Well, that's true. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Dianetics was all about waking people up.
Right.
It was like the opposite, and he even said it in the book. It was the opposite of hypnotism. In fact, hypnotism itself was in the research of Dianetics, kind of indicated where the irrationality that Dianetics was trying to fix was coming from.
Right. And a lot of people think it hypnotizes people. This is the joke. This is the absolute joke of some critics who actually haven't read the book. And some people, like some of these anonymous guys, told me they read the book. I asked them the first question about it, and they can't answer it. So it's really, some people, if you're going to start arguing and say all about Scientology and Dianetics, and you haven't read the book, go read the book before you start arguing with me. That's my first point. Yeah.
Secondly, Dianetics itself it goes into incidents which include hypnotism and actually takes the person through those incidents so he's aware of it.
Right.
So it's totally the opposite of hypnotism.
Right.
It also can take a person through, for example, if a person went in and had surgery, a lot of, even though he's under anesthetic, a lot of this data has been recovered in Dianetics, like things going on, the things that the surgeon said, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
This was pretty surprising.
Yeah.
But basically in Dianetics, this is the key point, is that there's a part of the mind called the reactive mind, which was earlier subjects called the unconscious mind.
Right.
It was a bit of a joke on the subject, a real misnomer, that the unconscious mind was the mind that's always conscious.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In other words, you're knocked unconscious, quote unquote, and yet the mind is still recording. So it was a bit of a misnomer to call it unconscious, because even when the guy's knocked out, he's actually still recording the incidents around him.
Yeah, but it's just not conscious, I guess.
Well, you're not aware, but the mind is still recording.
Yeah,
so it's a bit funny. But in other words, this part of the mind, this reactive mind, this is how it works, right? Just to give everybody a picture.
Yep.
All right, so whoever, God or whoever started and created us way back when, I don't, that's another subject. But just say, however we were created, if you're going to create something, you're going to want, like, especially with the mind, it's a pretty delicate mechanism. You don't want to make it, you don't want to put, like, say you have a piece of circuitry, and it's a real delicate piece of circuitry.
Yeah.
Now, you would put a fuse there, right? You'd put a circuit breaker, or you put some kind of circuit where if too much electricity came through, the delicate circuitry would not be fried. It would be saved, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what the reactive mind is. You got the analytical mind is your delicate circuitry. That's where all of your thoughts, your memories, your good experiences go.
Yeah.
The reactive mind was a bit like the rugged memory. This was the one where when the house was burning down and you're full of pain and somehow half consciously you pulled yourself and your brother out of the fire through, regardless of all the pain. This was the rugged reactive mind was turned on in full. It was a basic, rugged survival.
Is it
mechanism.
survival? Some people call it the limbic brain, but the survival, reptilia brain, where it's just instant survival of what happens like now. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, this is a thing, and someday they might fully correlate all the mind and the brain, and they'll get everything straight there. I mean, it's still the brain itself is a subject that's
well, we can't figure
we're far, from, we're still in the prehistoric age on that, although we've progressed a bit.
Well, we've got we've got computers now, which is an extension of our brain.
Yeah, that's right.
And it is. Now we've, that's interesting stuff.
So it's basically, it's sort of a long story, and I'm trying to make it as short as possible.
That's all right.
The reactive mind, so during those incidents when the reactive mind is fully in circuit, and it's recording, those are the painful incidents. It could be painful like a physical accident, like you've fallen off your motorcycle, and you got knocked unconscious, or at least just knocked a bit, and you're just in pain and on the ground, and someone talks all around you. Well, those words go straight into the unconscious, and this is where it connects to hypnotism, just like hypnotism.
Yeah.
You see, so the idea of hypnotism is that you put the person below their awareness, they're not aware of what's going on, and then you put the words in like a command. Right. Well, this is what Dianetics found out, was just like hypnotism, when a person has pain and unconsciousness, then the words that are spoken around him, go in like a hypnotic command. And so then a person later can act irrationally.